I will go ahead and turn this over to Rebecca, and she'll take us through the meat of today's presentation. Rebecca, it's over to you.
Good afternoon and welcome. First of all, I'd like to share a brief introductory of my background with you. I have served as the Director of Procurement and Administrative Services at St. Louis County Government since 2006. I have over 25 years' experience in federal, state, and local contracting. Prior to the St. Louis County Government, I was the Chief Contracting Officer for Engineering, Construction, and Legal Services for the Transit Authority in St. Louis, and responsible for the implementation and oversight of design and construction contracts and delivery of light rail for the Transit Authority's capital program. I have served in the capacity as the appointed Certified Department of Defense Contracting Officer for 10 years, and I've managed contracting activities in support of worldwide military airlift operations, and I've been a member of a special task force for direct support for the Gulf War. During my career, I was a member of the Federal Transit Administration Procurement Policy Board, an active member of the National Institute of Government Purchasing, the National Contract Management Association, and I have attained the highest certification level as a federal acquisition professional. Now to the real subject of interest. St. Louis County is home to nearly 1 million people and is part of the St. Louis metro area. It spreads across 520 square miles bordering the Missouri River to the north and the Merrimack River to the south and the Mississippi River to the east. The city of Clayton is the county seat. St. Louis was the first county in Missouri to adopt a home rule charter under the Missouri Constitution. Executive powers vested in the county executive, and ordinances are passed by a county council made up of separate members, each from a separate district within the county. St. Louis County's 90 municipalities have primary responsibility within their jurisdiction for services such as public safety, planning and zoning, local street maintenance, and building code enforcement. My division services 20 departments. Next slide. What were we doing before ESM Solutions? We had a very slow-paced, labor-intensive manual procurement process which lacked reporting capabilities and access to data for better procurement decision-making. We had inadequate reporting capabilities, and our data access was limited to spreadsheets and manual computation. Without real-time data, transparency and accountability was shadowed and information was perceived as made up. We would spend time bidding a project only to find out that there were insufficient funds or no funding in place. We were challenged with overspending of budgets, spending from incorrect accounts, and we did not have a structured fiscal closing, and as a result, we lacked data integrity. We maintained a manual bid list that was limited to the region or Missouri. Our ability to access data was limited, and real-time data was a dream, and we relied on spreadsheets. The approval process was laborious. We used 4 color-coded forms, and I would see what seemed like the same request on different forms at different times. Our signature process was stacks of paper and often bogged down by sitting in an inbox in a department. It was time for change. Next slide. In June of 2007, we issued the request for proposal for a financial system that would serve procurement, fiscal management, treasury, budget, and HR. We executed a contract immediately, started with pre-implementation tasks. We had 9 months after contract execution to successfully implement. It was an aggressive schedule that required project management skills, decision-making, visionary skills, committed staff, and change management focus. Some of our requirements crossed over, and we had to build the system to accommodate the processes of other functional areas. We managed as is, and to these we established workflows and permissions. We conducted system setups. We imported vendor data. We began introducing e-bidding to the vendors through 4,000 mailings. We trained super users, basically train the trainer. Our go live was October 2008. It was a successful implementation, and we had created for the first time an automatic bid tabulation. We had the ability to project our bids in public, control the bid time, create electronic solicitations, and converted awards directly into the financial system. We had successfully processed electronic requisition to check. In 2011, we worked on numerous enhancements, such as sourcing event posting board, enhanced search capabilities on the sourcing board, set up all 400 of our term contracts as catalog contracts. We created dynamic links. We increased the 2 to 4 decimals on pricing. We added bid dates to the easy quote, and we worked on other key features of the solution. Our e-bidding system received national recognition for organization productivity, and a department has requested to use the solution for their sewer lateral and water program bids. We will be implementing their program the end of this month. Our enhancements for this year are vendor synchronization between the two systems, negative discount, contract data synchronization, walk-in bids, and other streamlining processes for the bidder. The county's time to award purchase orders and contracts has been reduced by 1/3 and continues to steadily improve. Paper, printing, and postage costs have been dramatically reduced. With any implementation, there are obstacles. We looked at the obstacles as opportunities. We trained staff to be trained a trainer. Our work was not only doing the day-to-day work, but implementing a new system. The key to successful implementation is your staff. It is important to recognize the achievers. During implementation, the skills of certain staff became apparent, and the job transforms. A manual process was in existence for years here at the county. The challenge was to train the non-technical staff to use applications never used before. Workflow approvals were created within the departments and within procurement. The status of the requisition was now viewable. We had to select a system that could accept our procurement processes into a fully electronic one. We focused internally to succeed. We also had to assure success with our vendors using the e-system and their ability to bid. It was amazing how the transformation was received. Our main issue was to have the bidders submit their bid electronically and successfully. We still allowed for walk-in bids for those who were not internet savvy. We had 4,000 vendors who needed to register, and they did. We have the ability to run numerous reports today, and we receive requirements fully funded. Some of the lessons we learned: we had experienced bidders versus non-experienced bidders. We referred our vendors to the posting board, which eliminated multiple phone calls to the buyers. Our system we recognized as a real true time saver. We had to rewrite procedures, but we had the engine to turn requirements quick and efficiently and to process emergencies the same day. Next slide. What benefits did we receive? We reduced the award time by 1/3. A significant amount of savings in the cost to process requisition to contract was realized. Staff time, paper, postage, and spending trends are examples of savings. We have the benefit of a complete turnkey solution. Self-service is available for the bidder to register, to track the status of their bid and the award. Electronic bid openings produce automatic bid results, and the ability to create and manage reports exists. The system increased process visibility and internal controls for consistency in purchases. We centralize storage all awarded documents, and we automate archiving. We have easy access to the right information. We have real-time transparent processing that can be viewed by all internal and external customers, including vendors and citizens. Next slide. This slide provides an example of the reporting capability and awards process since we implemented ESM solutions. Our annual awards are around 550 purchase orders and our annual spending around $80 million. This information offers the transparency, the spending trends, and accountability of an eProcurement system. Next slide. When we turned our manual process into automation using business rules and best practices, we realized significant efficiency and return on investment benefits with minimal risk and less effort. ESM Solution offers a comprehensive solution that streamlines document processes by eliminating inefficient steps, automating information exchange regardless of source. ESM Solution removed manual tasks and brought visibility to the bid process by causing no disruption to current county business. Our goal was to design the ESM Solution to optimize internal and external information flow into and out of the ESM application. Our solution is an end-to-end process that manages all inbound and outbound processes, simplifies the IT infrastructure, reduces the time and cost, and drives efficiency throughout the bid process. The procurement staff generates added value and profitability for the entire organization through the ESM solution at the lowest cost and at the right time. By automating the collection and sending of information, we have lowered the cost of purchasing the materials and goods for the county taxpayers. Next slide. Efficiency in purchasing is a key driver of performance. We have the ability to optimize the purchasing process through our automated procurement process from end to end. We can compare spending trends and contract history. We can identify unauthorized purchases, activate emergency purchases, create various reports, and distribute the purchase orders electronically to our customers and the vendors. As a result, everyone gains real-time information, transparency, and operational efficiencies. From the items listed here, procurement changed by providing fiduciary objectives: transparency, accountability, expansion of our vendor pool, staff productivity by reducing time-consuming manual tasks, significant reduction in paper, postage, and printing costs, the accessibility to real-time data empowering procurement employees to make better strategic purchasing decisions. We have the ability to respond to our internal and external customers to meet the mission and the best interest of county citizens. What's next for the county? We have these enhancements: the ability for the county to enter a walk-in bid for the buyer to convert. This would eliminate the need for manual reporting. Bid tabulations would be all-inclusive, just as if the bidder entered the bid into the ESM solution. We're working on the enhancement for negative amounts. This would be used for construction projects for alternates. If the department chooses not to include the alternate, the county has the ability to zero the alternate before award conversion. The enhancement for vendor synchronization, bidding vendors versus purchase order vendors. This would eliminate duplicating vendors from the ESM solution into the financial system by using the vendor's federal ID number. Electronic synchronization between ESM and the financial system on our catalog contracts will allow for contract items to be identified against non-contract items. The ability to streamline bidder selection when creating a distribution list. This enhancement will be a time saver for the procurement staff when building their list of bidders. The ability to no bid. This would allow vendors to be counted as responding to a bid solicitation with a no bid and eliminates a follow-up with non-responsive bidders. The ability to switch from module to the next without having to exit the module. Another time-saving feature for the staff when navigating from one module to the next. An example would be if a buyer was working on an easy quote and a bidder calls and requests a formal bid to be published to them. Currently, the buyer must close out of one module and go into another. And last, the ability to add contract-wide increases and decreases. This enhancement will allow for increased or decreased pricing on contracts by a percentage versus the need to manually adjust line items. In conclusion, we know we are obtaining value for the taxpayer fund spend, and this benefit is invaluable to us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Thank you for walking us through that. I'll now turn it over to Dan, who's going to tell us just a little bit about ESM solutions, and then I have one more poll question for you, and then we'll get into the Q&A. Dan, over to you.
Thanks, Ron. I'd like to begin by thanking all of the attendees for joining the webinar today. So we know that you're very busy, and we appreciate you taking the time out to learn a little bit about what the County of St. Louis has done with our solutions. Additionally, I'd like to thank Rebecca. Not only does she come with many years of expertise in the procurement field, as you kind of heard with her bio, but we've been working closely with the County of St. Louis for 4 years. And I think what's great beyond the fact that they've rolled out a solution like this is she and her organization strive for continuous improvement. So they're not just starting with the solution and just stopping there. They're continuously growing it, adding on to it, and asking and pushing us for more. So I think in the case of the County of St. Louis, it will continue in a growing evolution. What I'd like to do is just spend one slide, not multiple slides, but one slide for those of you who don't know who ESM Solutions is, or for those of you who do, maybe you might learn a little bit more. So some background on the company before we get into your questions and some answers. So from a company perspective, we've been in this business now for almost 13 years. Some of you might recognize our older brand names. We had the brands eSchool Mall in the education space and Mercury Commerce in higher ed. We, as a company, migrated to ESM Solutions a couple years ago. But we were the initial leader in this space all the way back in the year 2000 when very few people even knew what eProcurement was. Our delivery model is a SaaS, a software as a solution, or as some of you kind of know it out there today, a cloud-based solution. What does that mean for everybody? What it means is that unlike the traditional software delivery world, there's no site-based software to install. There's no hardware to configure. You have simple access to our solutions via a web browser, and we'll talk a little bit more about implementation, but it is a true web-based solution. A little bit about the products. We organize our products into suites. So we have our purchasing suite and we have our sourcing suite. Rebecca had shared a lot about the sourcing suite today. On the purchasing side, our platform is called Easy Purchase, and there is multiple configurations of Easy Purchase. It gives you the capability to manage content on the front end, so punch-outs, posted catalogs, warehouse catalogs, etc. It allows you to shop on a very new and exciting front end that is Amazon-esque. Allows you to fill out carts and check out. And then it gives you a lot of the traditional pieces that you would need inside of a procurement tool, like routing for approval, creating purchase orders, submitting electronically to the supplier community. And then on the back end, some important new pieces to the puzzle that are real critical from an end-to-end perspective with electronic invoicing, payment features, and then integration to the general ledger. Additionally, on the procurement side, what we've found over the last couple years is it really, for many organizations, is becoming less and less about the software and more about the data. So we're very excited that over the last quarter or so that we've included analytics in our solution, and we are now presenting dashboards out of the box so that you don't have to go through the cumbersome process, if you don't want to, of generating Excel or CSV reports, et cetera, you can look at a very GUI, very easy to get to dashboard to understand your different types of spend. So that's on the procurement side. And in the second bullet, I would just like to mention that because many of you, or most of you who are on the phone today, are public sector, it's pretty critical to integrate into the public sector ERPs. So we've integrated through the years to 40 plus, everything from those of you who might be a little bit bigger, from a Oracle and PeopleSoft to an SAP, all the way down to the public sector packages like SunGard and Tyler and Infinite Visions, et cetera. So whatever your package is out there, it is a core competency of ours to be able to integrate to that. On the sourcing side, as I said, it is a suite, but it comes with 4 tools, 2 sealed bidding tools, one that allows for line item bidding and one that allows for discount bidding, a quoting tool, and an RFP and RFI tool. Through those 4 tools, you can basically do any kind of sourcing event, which then can feed over to the procurement side so that you can buy against that. And that's some of the things that the County of St. Louis is taking advantage of today. We like to think that we wrap all of this with an intuitive user interface for the end users. One of the things that we get positive feedback on from our customer community is that it is easy to use and simple front end. Now that said, the world has changed from when we started and when eProcurement started 12 years ago, and when the shopper or requisitioner goes home at night, they're used to sites like Amazon and Zappos and very user-friendly sites. So we've recently released a very exciting new shopping experience that would be analogous to one that the consumer would have when they go home at night, so an intuitive user interface. Additionally, as procurement has changed in the public sector, we've tried to change with it. Very few people walk around today without a mobile device, and many are using tablets. So we built these new solutions to be tablet and phone friendly. For the Apple world, for the Droid world, the Windows world, et cetera, and when you code and develop for those devices, it's not the same as when you're building for a PC. So you do special development. So we're trying to work with the world to say, think of this as a paradigm shift. The way you purchased before is very different, and your end users want mobility. So that capability is there if you so desire. As for implementation and training, this goes back to the initial bullet about the SaaS delivery model. In a SaaS delivery model, implementation is defined differently than it was in the traditional software model. As I said earlier, you don't have to worry about hardware or software to configure. When our services people work with you, specifically, they will do setup, training, and configuration. Much different than in the case of, let's take Rebecca and their ERP with Tyler, which might have taken them, because of the size of the ERP, years to install, which many of you are familiar with probably in your entities. So our services people do that setup work, and then they do the setup of the vendor community, your punch-outs and your hosted catalogs, or on the sourcing side working with your distribution lists. So we should not measure an install by lots of months or even years. We really should measure your install in weeks, and your return on investment should be very short, and you should be able to see benefit with this and find a way for you to pay for this in a difficult economy. So that's our product suite and a little bit about our implementation and design. Lastly, we have 156 licensed customers. Actually, the world now really says subscription or subscribed customers. That means those are customers who are paying us for that product. There are 400 or so more in total that tree up to those, and that equals 4,000 plus bidding and buying entities across 30 plus states. Not knowing exactly who you are on the phone, we work with the smallest of entities that may only have 900 people up to larger entities like Rebecca's at the County of St. Louis, or very large school districts that have billion-dollar budgets, or large universities, and everything in between. So eProcurement and spend management can fit whoever you are along the continuum. It just really depends upon what you're trying to achieve. So in conclusion, as we move now to Q&A, we're all about cost control, visibility, spend control, and savings. And I know savings has become an overused term, almost like the word cloud nowadays, but really what you should be able to do is take this money and put it back into the organization so that you can either hire more people or distribute that money in areas that are more important. And we believe that we have a return on investment that can show you that in a quick period of time. So that's it for me. Appreciate the time again that you took with us today, and I'll turn it back over to Ron for questions.
Okay, on to the questions then. We've got a bunch of them coming in, and I'll touch on a few of them. Any of them that we don't get an opportunity to answer live today, we'll make sure somebody gets in touch with you with the answer shortly. So the first one, have you interfaced with a software ERP solution provided by Skyward Inc.? Dan, I guess that would go to you.
Yep, simple answer there, and the answer is yes.
All right. I'll have to look for more open-ended questions. There's a couple here that seem to be touching on a theme of expensiveness, that's probably not great English on my part, but the cost of a solution and the difficulty of deployment. So Dan, maybe I could just get you to comment one more time on what do you guys see in terms of a typical deployment, how you guys measure success in that area, as well as maybe on the reputation of eProcurement solutions in general as being just very expensive and very long time to pay back.
Sure, I'll do this. I'll try to answer the back half, and maybe the attendees out there might want to hear from Rebecca maybe on the first part. So I'll try to start on the back half. I guess we really do pride ourselves in trying to get the software up very, very quickly, as I said in my previous slide. So it really shouldn't be painful for you. The vendor onboard process is managed by us. Loading of users and configurations, if you want, can be managed by ESM, or you can do it by yourself. But again, with no software or hardware to install, the process should be similar. Now, I think there are change management issues, and Rebecca may talk about those things. But how it ties to cost, our pricing model is a subscription. We charge it on an annual basis, and it's not the same for everybody. So we charge a smaller number than we would for a much larger entity. So it should scale. And I would say, without knowing or giving a specific price today, typical return on investments for software, any kind of traditional software, can be from 12 to 24 months. In our world, we're really talking about, in a lot of cases, 3 months to less to pay for this software. It's not free. There is a cost associated with it, but we can show you a very short return on investment. I'll pass it to Rebecca to just give any thoughts she would have on difficulty in installing.
We were very pleased with the relationship that we had with our sales rep with ESM Solution in walking us through our best options and what exactly are the areas that we needed to be responsible for, and if we had any difficulties, we received prompt response back. We got full support on questions that we had or things that we did not understand, and it made that interface experience so easy that we were able to focus on the other side that we needed to focus on, which also involved pieces of implementation that we were responsible for. But the thing that I appreciated the most was the customer service response that I received anytime, any time of the day, and we just had an excellent relationship, and we asked to have things pretty much customized for the way we conduct business, because basically we tried to take our manual process and convert it into an electronic process, and to find that suitability was important, but we realized we couldn't fit everything into it. But I would have to say, if I was to look back, I would say at least 85% of what our manual process exists in the ESM solution. And so we, as Dan has mentioned, we continue to explore other things, and we're always tinkering with improving. And while we're doing that, we have the ability to share our visions and our ideas and translate them into actual enhancements and improvements.
All right. Getting on to the next question then. Here's one. So the term eProcurement is used loosely or broadly, I guess, often. The core question here is, does the system allow you to perform the entire process source to pay? Sorry, lost my spot on the line. Dan, I'll throw that one over to you. And then maybe
Sure.
Rebecca.
I'll start and see if Rebecca has anything to add. So, you know, what we've seen after 13 years, particularly in the public sector, a little different than the commercial sector, is that public sector procurement really starts with the sourcing process in many cases. Many for legal reasons and jurisdiction reasons have to start from a sourcing perspective. So inside our solution, you know, you can start with bidding, quoting, or doing an RFP or RFI, and then through the push of a button, electronically, you can move that awarded event over to our purchasing suite to start it as a requisition and or a catalog, move it through approvals, PO creation, and then submission to the vendor or supplier. So the question was, can it handle source to pay? The answer is absolutely yes, starting on the sourcing side. Rebecca, anything to add there?
Yeah, and by design, we have a financial system that we are tied or actually interface with. So we do all of our e-bidding in ESM, through ESM, and we actually process the payment through our financial system. But most importantly for us is the ability to orchestra and control the bidding process, which we have full ability to do through the ESM solution. And then the beauty is that we have the ability then to take everything that we award and convert it into the financial system, and we have the ability to track information and produce reports. And as I mentioned earlier, I think one of the fascinating things that I have seen, or at least for us, is the ability to instantly produce bid tabulations and results of the bid tabs, and that is a time saver for the buyers, a tremendous time saver. So a lot of flexibility.
I've got two in a row for Rebecca, if you're okay with that. The first one is, Rebecca, were you able to quantify specific cost savings in the areas of procurement and administration, such as staffing and efficiency in processing?
I want to say I did. I came up with what I think were my estimates of savings that were a result of the time it takes to do a manual process versus electronic process, the cost savings that we had in producing or not using paper, the means of distribution is electronic. We do not have to print out multiple packages of solicitations, and everyone, I think, who's on the phone understands what I'm talking about, that you have a document that could be 600 pages, and that alone is not necessary in this environment that we are in. There's always the desire to have a piece of paper, but you can totally eliminate that. And I feel that I've come up with an estimate that I thought was very significant to the county. And those, again, are rough estimates in my mathematical expertise that I think I can say are the best estimates. And I would say that we had significant savings. And I see that in my budget today.
Okay. Another one for Rebecca. Do you use ESM for all payables activity now? If not, how does ESM integrate with your payables process?
I think I had mentioned earlier that we do all of the bidding through the ESM, and then all awards, so the fiscal aspect of the award and the encumbrance moves over into the financial system that we use. So it's requisition to PO. Our requisitions are processed through the financial system. The final requisition is processed through the financial system, which in turn produces the purchase order, and then it will also make payment.
Okay.
Ron, if I may, can I comment on that as well?
Of course.
Earlier I had mentioned the configurability of Easy Purchase. For those of you who are on the line and are thinking payables along the procurement line, the way Rebecca in the County of St. Louis uses the solution with us might be a little bit different than others based on their integration to Tyler. So some of those pieces are on the Tyler side. What I'd like you to walk away with today, no matter how big or small you are or what ERP you use, you can configure the system in many different ways. So on the procurement side, a small entity may want to just use it for P-card purchases without being integrated. You might be a medium-sized entity who might want to use all of our functionality, including approvals, and then integrate to the ERP. Or you might be larger, like St. Louis, and invested a lot in an ERP, and some of that functionality wants to be maintained in that functionality. We don't box anybody in with that, and we really have configurability in being able to work with how you want to do that. So I think that's really important for people to know.
Okay, I've got another one for Rebecca. It seems like your deployment is fairly advanced. Wondering what you would recommend as a first step if someone were to look at implementing an eProcurement solution. What are the initial stepping stones, if you will?
When I started at the county, we really had no automation per se. So when the opportunity came to become automated, one of the main the main points of focus that I had was to try to transfer the major procurement processes, the manual processes, into the electronic solution, and allowing the transparency to the departments and for the departments to have the ability to know the status of things and to be engaged and involved and take ownership in and that process. So with that, I mean, I focused on what could I do to minimize my risk and to still adhere to my ordinance, which is fairly old, and minimize the impact to the staff in the way business was conducted through the manual process, and also for the departments, because it was a significant change for many people who initially were not as involved in using a computer even. And so some of these, so all of these things that you think about, it's important that you can plan. But I think what was advantageous to me was I had a vision, and I had the right people to make the vision happen, and I had full support from top management. And as a result, you know, it's still, change is still happening. Departments are still adapting, but I think we took a huge step. We went from something very archaic to the future, and we did it with one big step, and we left no one behind. So a lot of times when you're implementing and doing something as big as this, you have to think about the importance of not leaving anybody behind, and also the many things that you're going to face is the change in your policy, the change in your procedures, the staff. There's a tremendous sense of anxiousness when you go through this, and so it's a team effort, and if you have the A team, you will succeed. And I think St. Louis County succeeded because we did have the A team.
Okay. Dan, this one I'll throw over to you. It looks like clarification on some earlier comments. In regards to ROI, did you mean that organizations should expect to realize their whole ROI or payback within 3 months, or just begin to realize savings starting in that 3-month time frame?
Well, it can vary, Ron. It can vary a little bit based on organization. It can vary based on what suite of products that you're using. Let me just quickly start with what I mean by the differences there. When you think about the County of St. Louis and their sourcing efforts, the savings on the sourcing is or could be perceived to be a little bit less hard dollar, in the sense that you're replacing, as Rebecca had said, a lot of forms, interoffice mail, paper, people's actual time, which again can sometimes be considered soft dollar costs. So when you then get to actually going out and strategically source to bring prices down, that's a different thing. Over on the purchasing side, we've seen a lot of customers save significant dollars, to the tunes of hundreds of thousands of dollars, because when you put a procurement solution in place and you mandate or force, I know those are tough words, people to comply in using those solutions, they will save money. So let me give one example. We were with an entity that it was a large size entity that had contracts in place across 25 categories, and they looked at the first category to do a post-analysis, and in looking in that first category, there was $80,000 of off-contract spend, even though they had a contract on it. When they put our solution in place and they mandated everybody go through that solution, you can be assured that they will buy on contract. So that's an example in that one category where you could have saved $80,000. So back to the specifics of the question, we have customers who will in that return on investment, pay for the entire solution in that first 3 months, and then for others, depending on how fast they move and what they do, it may only start to save for it in those first 3 months.
All right.
So
Thank you.
I hope that helps well.
I would be remiss in my duties as a marketing person if I didn't ask this question that came in. This person has looked at a couple of ESM's competitors and was wondering how ESM compares. The two competitors he mentioned here are Coupa and SciQuest. Maybe Dan, you could comment on that?
Sure. So a couple things from a competitive landscape. The first thing I'd like to share, which I think is really important, is that we were really the first company in this field going back 13 years ago, and I'd like to think that really makes us an expert in what we're doing. So I think the first differentiator is that we're living spend management 24/7, and I can really attest to that in the SaaS world. In a hosted solution, your solution is up 24/7. It doesn't shut down like a site-based software when Rebecca in the county of St. Louis closes its doors at 5 or 6 at night on Friday night. So we truly are experts. How we differentiate, I think certainly our longevity and our expertise. In the case of Coupa, I would say that they're a commercial-oriented package. They don't have very many public sector entities, although again you're not going to hear me say anything negative about them, but I think our solutions are more tailored to the specifics of the public sector space. On the SciQuest side, I would say from knowing their software that there's a couple things that would be different. I think we're a more user-friendly and an easier to use application, more meant for people out in the field than just people in the back office. I think we're clearly quicker to get the solution up and running. We've seen in many cases we're a fraction of the cost, a third to a fifth of the cost of what they do. But all of those companies have good packages, and quite honestly, the whole of the public sector only has about 15% that has adopted into a solution. So there's plenty of room for people to adopt solutions out there today.
All right. Thank you. We are approaching the top of the hour here, and although we did start a little bit late due to some technical difficulty, I would like to try to wrap things up on time. Dan or Rebecca, did you have any closing comments you wanted to make to the audience here, or shall I just wrap up?
The one other comment that I would have, Ron, that I would leave everybody with as you either investigate, embark, or eventually choose a solution like this is to really, as Rebecca had stated, realize that it is a paradigm shift. And most of you being public sector entities that are on the phone, I would just say that you can't, as we all know, put a square peg in a round hole. So as you put a solution in like this, you need to do some change management, and you do need to change some things, trying to take the practices that might be in place in your entity that might have been in place for the past 50 years and have them fit exactly into today's world where you can get benefit, won't always allow for success. We're not saying that you need to turn that upside down or even shift it 50%, but you need to have that mindset to be successful. And we believe at ESM that we're a flexible solution, and we'll try to work with you to accomplish your goals. So on my end anyway, we thank you for your time, and we look forward to speaking with you.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Rebecca, did you have anything to add? Oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
I thank you
go
for
ahead.
the opportunity. That's okay. I thank you for the opportunity to present St. Louis County. We're extremely proud of our eProcurement and eSolution. As I said before, when you go into something like this, I think most importantly, make sure you have a plan, you have a vision, and the transformation is basically just taking, at least interpreting the manual process into the electronic process, and it takes a lot of encouragement to your customers to be willing and accepting and coaching and understanding. And so even though you may perceive that you will have problems, you know, you should recognize your problems as opportunities, because that's really what it is. It's an opportunity to do your job in a most efficient way and in a very transparent way. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Dan, and everybody who took the time to join us on the webinar today. Thank you for your time and your attention. With that, I will go ahead and wrap up this webinar and just mention, keep an eye out for upcoming webinars from ESM in the next few weeks. We've got a whole series planned. So thanks again, everybody. With that, I will end the webinar.